Hi, welcome to this Physionic Extract, wherein I'll be showing you some data on how our skin ages and really the mechanisms for why our skin begins to look the way that it does over time.
Learn Your Body, a science-based education.
Now, this particular research comes from a paper that I dissected, and you can check out all of my notes as well as the other data that I'm not going to be covering in this particular piece of content. That is all linked to this content, however, so I certainly encourage that you check out the study as well as my further notes. But with that said, this paper looked at two different groups of individuals. It looked at young individuals 18 to 29 years old, as well as individuals who are 80 or older. And they took skin samples from both groups and then they plated them onto cell culture plates to be able to investigate the impact that age has on these particular cells. The cells were called fibroblasts, which are the types of cells that tend to release the most amount of collagen. So these fibroblasts were then investigated, and these fibroblasts were compared for the amount of synthesis, the amount of production of collagen that they were able to produce. So as I mentioned, these fibroblasts were plated and then they were investigated or probed for how much collagen they were able to produce. And as you can see, that there's a substantial decrease in the amount of procollagen, which is an immature form of collagen, which is a great indication or a great marker for the synthesis of new collagen. There were dramatically decreased levels for the aged skin biopsies, so the cells that came from the aged skin. And not only that, they also found that the actual cell structure, so how the cells were behaving, was markedly different between the older cells and the newer cells. So the newer cells would align themselves along extracellular matrix that was filled with these thick collagen ropes or filaments. However, with the aged cells, you see a lot of white, you see a lot of gaps that start to occur and a lot of fragmentation of the collagen, and the cells themselves aren't long and elongated along those collagen fibers. What they're actually doing is rounding up. So they're getting smaller and they're rounding up. Now, the proposed mechanism, according to these researchers, is that as the collagen fibers that are already produced and already laid down, those start to fragment over time. And as they fragment, the cells that adhere to those to allow for mechanical strain to tell those cells, hey, you need to produce more collagen, that connection between the cells and the already formed collagen fibers starts to break down as the collagen fibers are breaking down. So that leads the cells to go from an elongated state to a rounded state. And that rounded state then leads to less collagen production. Not only that, they have evidence for this by looking at an anchoring protein called vinculin, and you see that it's far more diffuse for the cells that are younger because those are more spread out. They have more of their cytoplasm, more of their cytosol, which is where the collagen is actually produced, is much larger in those younger cells as opposed to the older cells. The older cells, while they still express this anchoring protein, they express it in a far more focal region because they are rounding out. So there's less cytosol, there's less anchoring to the formed collagen, which leads to less mechanical tension on the actual fibroblasts, and then those fibroblasts will round out. Now, they didn't actually have data for this last piece of information I'm going to tell you, but they did mention that it is also possible that these fibroblasts start releasing MMPs. MMPs are called metalloproteinases, or they're essentially enzymes that break down collagen. So they do the opposite. So they don't synthesize, they actually start doing the opposite. They start further insulting the injury, in a manner of speaking. So they start releasing more of these MMPs. So that's something that the authors or the researchers of this paper as well talk about. So some really interesting research here that gives some indication, some mechanistic data as to how or why our skin starts to fade and starts to lose that elasticity that you would normally find in younger looking skin. So hopefully you found it informative, and with that said, I hope I have the absolute pleasure of speaking with you in the very next one. Have a good one, guys. Bye.